Hello and welcome to 52 Weeks. This week we're continuing in Chapter 8, Economic Development, and we'll be finally finishing up this chapter focusing on priority number 3. Within the previous segments, we've looked at 3 priorities that are listed in the Economic Development chapter, and these are recommendations to the city to focus on 3 main priorities. The first one we looked at was priority number 1, the maintenance industry. The second priority was strengthen the transportation hub, and the third priority, expanding Harrisburg's private business sector. So the question wrapping up this chapter is, how do we expand Harrisburg's private business sector? As we've already looked at the 1974 plan and the Harristown Development Corporation, and we're transitioning into the future, and what does the city need to set up to actually create sustainable job growth and education, as well as innovation all around the city and the region. So we look at Goal 8.8 as a regional core of innovation, concentrate economic and cultural activity in the regional core within a primary innovation district and satellite innovation hubs. So one might ask, what are innovation districts? Innovation districts, by definition, are geographic areas where leading-edge anchor institutions and companies cluster and connect with startups, business incubators, and accelerators. They are structurally compact, transit accessible, and technologically wired while offering mixed-use housing, office, and retail. In the United States, innovation districts have emerged near anchor institutions in the downtowns and midtowns of cities such as Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Cambridge, Cleveland, Detroit, Houston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and San Diego. They are developing in Boston, Brooklyn, Chicago, Portland, Providence, San Francisco, Seattle, where underutilized areas, particularly older industrial areas, are being reimagined and remade. A Harrisburg Innovation District has unique potential to spur productive, inclusive, and sustainable economic development. Pennsylvania's capital city is experiencing sluggish growth and eroding tax base, and recently teetered on the edge of bankruptcy. A Harrisburg Innovation District provides a strong foundation for the creation and expansion of firms and jobs by helping companies, entrepreneurs, universities, researchers, and investors across sectors and disciplines to co-invent and co-produce new discoveries for the market. In summarizing Goal 8.8, Regional Core of Innovation, the question is, how is this innovation important? At the time of rising social inequity, the Harrisburg Innovation District offers the prospect of expanding employment and educational opportunities for the disadvantaged, given the Innovation District borders low and moderate income neighborhoods. This is seen all around the U.S. with these innovation districts and how they're connecting with community capacity building. During a time of inefficient city land use, extensive sprawl, a deteriorating infrastructure, and continued environmental degradation, the Harrisburg Innovation District presents the potential for a denser residential environment, a source for new employment opportunities, the leveraging of new mass transit options, and a repopulation of the city's urban core as well as community cores. So what are the benefits of an innovation district in Harrisburg? There's a couple points that are listed in the comp plan. Number 1, they foster innovation across industries. Number 2, they empower entrepreneurs. Number 3, they can provide better and more accessible jobs to low-income areas. Number 4, they can help the city of Harrisburg raise revenues. Continue to look at the components of the Innovation District. It's important to know this diagram of innovation ecosystems, which involves the economic, the physical, and the networking assets all coming together to build an ecosystem. Given the vast distinction in regional economies, the form and function of innovation districts differ markedly across the United States, yet all innovation districts contain economic, physical, and networking assets. Number 1, the economic assets. These are the firms, institutions, and organizations that drive, cultivate, or support innovation-rich environment. These are within innovation sources, focused on developing cutting-edge technology, products, and services for the market, highly creative fields such as industrial design, graphic arts, media, architecture, and highly specialized small-batch manufacturing. Continuing in those economic assets, innovation cultivators are the companies, organizations, or groups that support the growth innovation sources and their ideas. These are the incubators, the accelerators, the proof of concept centers, the tech transfers offices, shared working spaces, as well as the local high schools, job training firms, and community colleges. And the third part of the economic assets, the neighborhood building amenities. This is the social capital. This is important to support services to residents and workers within the district. These are the grocery stores, the bars, the restaurants, the movie theaters, coffee bars, the small hotels, and retail outlets. And we look at the physical assets. These are the public and privately owned spaces, the buildings, open spaces, the street, and other infrastructure designed, renovated, and organized to stimulate connectivity, collaboration, and innovation. We've talked about this before in other segments. Starts off with the public realm. These are the spaces accessible to the public, such as parks and plazas, and streets that become locales for energy and activity. They encourage networking, where spaces encourage people to crash into one another. The other part of this is the private realm. This is the privately owned buildings and spaces that stimulate innovation in new and creative ways. Office developments are increasingly configured with shared work and lab spaces and smaller, more affordable areas for startups. Connections are the last part of the physical assets that connect the district together and or tie it to the broader metropolis. They're investments that are aimed to enhance relationship building and connectivity. And lastly, we look at the network assets, the relationships between actors, such as individuals, firms, and institutions, that they have the potential to generate, sharpen, and accelerate the advancement of ideas. Networks are generally described as either having strong or weak ties. And here's the distinction of both the strong and weak ties. The strong ties are people and firms that are working in a professional history, high levels of trust, info sharing, and joint problem solving. The weak ties are where people and firms working within different contexts or economic clusters where there's infrequent contact. So now that we have a better understanding of the components of the innovation district, so now we can focus on catalyzing innovation. So as the comp plan summarizes, over the past 4 years, much time and effort was spent cultivating key relationships between innovation hubs like Ben Franklin Technology Partners, the Life Science Greenhouse, Innovation Cafe, Harrisburg University, Penn State University, and the Central PA Founders Network. Networking groups have sprung up around technical and creative disciplines, and there are a number of technology-oriented events held throughout the year, including the annual week-long Up Next Startup Festival. So in Objective 8.8.1, Innovation District Network, a collaborative leadership network is a collection of leaders from key institutions, firms, and sectors who regularly and formally cooperate on the design, delivery, marketing, and governance of the district. Practitioners reflected to bring innovation to scale, i.e. beyond the boundaries of individual organizations and firms, has required leaders from disparate institutions to encourage idea sharing across researchers, firms, universities, and supportive organizations. This is different than what we have from traditional models, and this goes into the book New Power, which is interesting in open source and open methodologies and information sharing, that we're better in sharing things together. This is a critical point, and how do we elevate this to the next level? An important share of the Innovation District leaders found the triple helix model of governance to be foundational to their success. The triple helix consists of structural iterations between industry, research, universities, and government. So in order to achieve a catalytic innovation within our city, we need to be thinking about these structures from within these districts. And this is within industry, the research universities, and government, and getting them to be cooperative, but also how this information is dispersed into the community and received within the community. This is critical within 4 C's of 21st century learning, that we're communicating, we're collaborating, we're critically thinking, and we're creative. And if we can do that from a community level to push back into this triple helix, that's even more important. So we start to share the network and information that's coming across the network to and from people that are in these districts. Continuing on, Action 8.8.1.1, set purpose, goals, and objectives for the Innovation District. So the question might be, what will Harrisburg gain? What will Harrisburg residents gain? What will private companies gain? So when we look at this, we need to start looking at the value in the system. This is critical to understand how do we get to goals and objectives and begin to do shared activities and measuring these things to show evidence that we're moving things forward. We don't have this collective amnesia of, oh, well, we didn't even think about that, or that's been done before and we forgot about it, we put it on a shelf and it's gathered dust. We need to get in a process of evaluating the plans that we put forth and show that we've made progress. That's critical to our success, individually as well as collectively. Ultimately, what tactics will we use to reach our prioritized goals, and how will the city measure the success of each? Again, we have prioritized goals and measurements. So this is the simple process that we need to come to, and why planning is important for the city of Harrisburg. The goals and tactics outlined at this stage do not need to be lengthy or highly detailed, but they do need to describe how they link to the core purpose for the Innovation District as they form the foundation from which all other visions, detailed plans, and stories flow. So coming back to what is our collective vision, so what is it that we're going to be seeing into the next decade? This is really the crux of the comprehensive plan, is what visions, the detailed plans, and stories will we be telling through the next decade to get us to 2040. Action 8.8.1.2, identify the role of one person, a team of people, or designated entity serving as a catalyst, an integrator, or a facilitator. So we look at our goals and objectives. We want to also make sure that we have roles that are assigned to tend to each of these areas. The triple helix is the collaborative long long-range visions of governments, research universities, and large industry leaders. So then we also have the mayor as charismatic, future-oriented decisions of infrastructure and policy, laying out the steps that we need to get to and administer those steps, and see to it that the public is served in the best way possible that's equitable for all. The facilitator's role is stitching together disparate efforts, helping conflicted leaders reach consensus, and keeping the process moving along. This takes a great deal of balance and understanding the needs from all parties. Action 8.8.1.3, define a shared innovation district vocabulary. This is defining how we all speak about the process. After assembling the leadership network, those at the table must create a shared vocabulary unique to Harrisburg and the project at large, keeping everyone on the same page and yielding a high return on the effort invested. As we look at Objective 8.8.2, establish a vision for district growth. Creating a vision for growth provides the actionable guidance for how the innovation district should grow and develop in the short, medium, and long term along the economic, physical, and social dimensions. Again, the discussion of triple bottom line right there. Most innovation district practitioners cite the importance of developing a vision to leverage the city's distinct strengths. The city's distinctive strengths, we've got economic clusters, leading local and regional institutions and companies, physical location and design advantages, and other cultural attributes. So when we look within our communities, we can understand our strengths, what might be our weaknesses, and how do we build our knowledge, skills, and abilities to draw this together. This comes in establishing a vision for this district and begin to pull together the network of supporting each other. Action 8.8.2.1, survey to understand the potential innovation district community as a whole. This is a really critical piece to do an asset mapping. This is where we can understand some of the capacity that's around us, and knowledge, skills, and abilities, as well as physical assets. So here's a list within the comprehensive plan of what type of mapping each neighborhood could be doing. The first is in exports. What are they and where are they going? The next is in trading partners. Who are they and what industries are they in? What is the net gain and loss for the city? Are there clusters of industry activity that can be built upon? And continuing on, we have land availability. How much is available? Where is it? And what environmental issues does it have? The people that are around here in general, are people leaving the city? Are they attracted to it? Have we stabilized? This is a great piece of data as a metric to understand your city. Continuing on, companies in general, or more companies, headquarters, corporate, or entrepreneurial looking to locate in the city? Are there more looking to leave? We got collegiate majors. What are the cities and states youth studying? And also we can use a metric to understand the brain drain within our state and with our region, and understanding college graduates. Are they leaving or staying? Have they returned? Are they contributing to the local economy? Are they contributing to the local innovation districts? All these things are assets that can be very helpful to better understand the position of Harrisburg within the region. This survey is really a capacity building survey to understand current snapshot, and then we can continue to use this in annual reviews of mission and vision. This is also something we could pull together within our high schools and connect with our colleges and universities to build GIS data and understand data points to get a better survey that happens both as snapshots of current, and we could look at projections and look at trends from the past. Continuing on in Action 8.8.2.2, craft a cohesive, inspiring, and relatable vision statement. So we must communicate vision internally to those who are intimately involved in the process, as well as externally to the rest of the community. Our vision will be compelling so that Harrisburgers believe and buy into concept. It will cultivate strong feelings from strategic public and private partners throughout the city, as well as the residents themselves. Action 8.8.2.3, create a Harrisburg Innovation District brand. The vision creates the brand both for an idealistic and marketing sense. We look at the materials, the logo, the sound and the name, and the story of the development, as well as the physical sense, the strategic use of urban design elements. Many are comfortable with the marketing side of this equation, but the physical placemaking side sets Harrisburg District apart from all others. As we work in communities and begin to develop small area plans, it becomes critical to focus on the urban design of what these places become, because if the story is not set into place now, it will turn out to be whatever someone else wills it to be in our city. And I think that's a good critique of the current state of Midtown. And one thing to take back to any of the other communities, such as Camp Curtin or Allison Hill, is how does this process work in a way that's equitable and make sure that everybody's at the table, as well as understanding that there's a balance of doing things with us and together at the table, and that the ideas from within are equally similarly valued as those coming from the outside. Action 8.8.2.4, identify potential innovation districts and satellite sites. This is a map from the comp plan that lists 5 potential innovation district sites. There can be more, and the satellites that are around, but these are things that need to be connected within the city. And as small area plans are developed, it makes sense to hone in on these areas and begin to look at it from a community of what we'd like to see be developed. And that's the seats at the table. We start to show the goals and objectives in the small area plans so we can be more proactive in what we'd like to see within our community that is built on the framework of the Harrisburg Comprehensive Plan that makes sense from the data, looking at mobility, access, affordable housing, education, all these things roll together. This is the triple bottom line so that the small area plans are formed while connecting to a larger holistic approach of the comprehensive plan. In expanding on what's in this map, the potential innovation districts are the transit-oriented development area, downtown Gateway, the Ridge at 6th and 7th Street corridor. And then when you look at the potential satellites, this is the Uptown Plaza, Division, the Campus Crescent, Hack, and William Penn campus connections. The 4th and Munich sites meander at 17th and 19th Streets, and some ideas for potential Uptown Food and Nutrition Economic Center. In the downtown Gateway, we can also think about some food and nutrition research centers that link up with the hospital, and within the Southern Green sites for community-supported agriculture, within agriculture and horticulture. Action 8.8.2.5, establish a place-making plan. A quote from a comp plan, Dennis Frenchman from MIT describes branding as a narrative design where the physical landscape is enhanced so they more clearly communicate a particular set of images and stories. District branding has included the strategic use of urban design elements. These are things such as building massing, street design, public spaces, materials, and plantings. All of this begins to convey a narrative of what this innovation district is and how it represents the community around it.